When you were young, did you ever think of like who you wanted to be or who you wanted to be like? Could have been somebody you admired who was famous or really successful. From a spiritual standpoint, is there anyone who you have looked up to or look up to and say, I wish I could be like her. I wish I could be like him. That's the kind of person I'd like to be. Well, in 2 Peter chapter 2, in this 22 verse condemnation of false prophets and false teachers, Peter's doing the opposite. He's saying, this is who you don't want to be. This is what you don't want to do. This is who you do not want to be like. And the verse for today that I've taken from the second half of that chapter is verse 14, where he says, they have eyes full of adultery, insatiable for sin. They entice unsteady souls. They have hearts trained in greed, accursed children. I know this may not be the most inspiring verse to start your day with, but trust me, read all of 2 Peter chapter 2. It's not easy finding something to talk about. But it's very important for us as Christians to understand that consistently throughout history, here's Peter writing in the first century, and here 2,000 years later almost, we see how do false teachers end up getting in trouble in ministries? Sexually inappropriate behavior and greed. It hasn't changed in all these centuries. I know there are some people in the church who, they will focus on certain issues around sex or sexuality or that sort of thing. But in the evangelical church, these two things are two of the biggest problems: greed and inappropriate sexual relationships. And the Southern Baptist Church, you may have seen in recent months, is dealing with a huge scandal and cover-up of so many people. And this goes on and on and on and on. And how do we want to live our lives? Well, not like this. We don't want to have eyes full of adultery. Remember, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says if you look at another person with the purpose of lusting after her or him, you've already sinned, even before you've actually done something physically. And recently, a very prominent pastor in the United States had to step away from his ministry. And not because it doesn't appear anything physical actually happened, but because of communication on Instagram and all this sort of stuff, clearly he had crossed a line. So we don't want to be that. We want to have eyes that are pure. Remember what Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And again, we don't want to have hearts trained in greed. We want to have hearts trained in generosity. Rather than accumulating and accumulating more for ourselves, we want to have hearts trained in generosity, in giving, in sharing, because again, that is the Spirit of Christ. And again, these false teachers, they can be very slick, they can be very physically appealing, and they entice unsteady souls. We want to have rock solid, steady souls so that we are not fooled, duped, or taken in by false prophets, by any person in power who is simply trying to enrich themselves and satisfy their own desires at the expense of other people. So 2 Peter chapter 2 throughout would tell you, follow people of integrity. Follow people whose walk with God you know and can respect. And be very, very cautious about people whose behavior is clearly outside of the bounds of how you and I are to live as followers of Christ.